Romeo and Juliet. I'm sure you're familiar with this. It's been countlessly redone and remade and reimagined even in different ways, both old and new. This is a classic love story. And when I was talking about in earlier units about love having its own vocabulary, love having eternal language, and how we use hyperbole or exaggeration in talking about love, Shakespeare's play exemplifies all of that. The way that Romeo and Juliet speak to each other, the desperation in not being able to be together, the dramatic effect of their separation and love for each other. They make us believe in true love, even in this tragic play. The play is set in Verona, Italy, and it begins with a street brawl between two servants of two warring families, the Montagues and the Capulets. Count Paris talks to Capulet about marrying his daughter Juliet, but Capulet thinks that Juliet is a little too young still, and he would like Paris to wait another 2 years. So he invites him to attend a planned Capulet ball. Lady Capulet and Juliet's nurse try to persuade Juliet to accept Paris's courtship. Meanwhile, persuaded by Benvolio and Mercutio, Romeo attends the ball at the Capulet house in hopes of meeting Rosaline, a Capulet niece that he was enamored with. They go in masquerade so as not to be noticed, but Romeo instead meets and falls in love with Juliet. Juliet's cousin Tybalt is enraged at Romeo for sneaking into the ball, but is stopped from killing Romeo by Juliet's father, who doesn't want any bloodshed in his own home. After the ball, Romeo sneaks into the Capulet orchard and overhears Juliet at her window, vowing her love to him. As he hears this, he is encouraged and spurred on, and replies, "But soft, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who is already sick and pale with grief, that thou, her maid, art far more fair than she. Be not her maid, since she is envious. Her vestal livery is but sick and green, and none but fools do wear it. Cast it off. It is my lady. Oh, it is my love." Romeo makes himself known to her, and they agree to be married. With the help of Friar Lawrence, who hopes to reconcile the two families through this union, they are secretly married the next day. Tybalt, meanwhile, is still incensed that Romeo had snuck into the Capulet ball, and Tybalt has not forgotten, so he challenges Romeo to a duel, not knowing that Romeo and his cousin are already married. Romeo now considers Tybalt family, so he refuses to fight. Instead, Mercutio accepts the duel on Romeo's behalf, planning to honor the name of their family. But Mercutio is fatally wounded when Romeo attempts to break up the fight. Grief-stricken and racked with guilt, Romeo confronts and kills Tybalt. The prince, now having lost a kinsman in the warring family's feud, exiles Romeo from Verona under penalty of death if he ever should return. But instead of leaving Verona, Romeo secretly spent the night in Juliet's room, where they consummated their marriage. Capulet is misinterpreting Juliet's grief. He agrees to marry her to Count Paris and threatens to disown her when she refuses. When she then pleads for the marriage to be delayed, her mother rejects her. You see, Capulet believed that Romeo was not the cause for Juliet's grief, but Tybalt's death. He thought that his daughter was grieving the death of her cousin, not the exile of her husband. So, this impetus of speed at trying to avoid the marriage to Count Paris sets in motion the dramatic, desperate acts that Juliet takes on to prevent a marriage to Count Paris. So she visits Friar Lawrence for help, and he offers her a potion that will put her into a death-like coma for 42 hours. The friar promises to send a messenger to let Romeo know of the plan so that he can rejoin her when she awakens. On the night before the planned wedding to Paris, she takes the drug, and when discovered apparently dead, her family lays her in the family crypt. The messenger, however, never reaches Romeo, and instead Romeo learns of Juliet's apparent death from his servant Balthazar. Romeo is heartbroken and buys poison from an apothecary and goes to the Capulet crypt to see his Juliet. He encounters Paris there, who has also come to mourn Juliet privately, and believing Romeo to be a vandal of some kind in the graveyard, Paris confronts him, and in the ensuing battle, Romeo kills Paris. Still believing that Juliet is dead, he drinks the poison that he got from the apothecary. And just then Juliet awakens and, finding Romeo dead, stabs herself with his dagger. The feuding families and the prince meet at the tomb to find all three dead. Friar Lawrence explains their story, and the families are reconciled by their children's deaths instead of the children's marriage. The play ends with the prince's elegy for the lovers, and a quote so famous you might even already recognize it. "For never was a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo."